We'll call to order the meeting of the County Commissioners General Session for October the 6th, 2018. First of all, welcome to everyone, and thank you for coming. We appreciate all of you being here and being a part of our meeting. The first thing we have is our invocation, and Mr. Steve Wilkinson right across the street from the Troy Presbyterian Church. He didn't bring his guitar tonight, but I bet he brought a good prayer.
I have got a good prayer. And just a quick thought, I had a funeral yesterday of someone who was 90, but if you see it in the paper, he was a major player, one of the builder generation that has made Troy and Montgomery County what it is. And part of my thoughts there use that passage from Ecclesiastes that you've heard at funerals, to everything there is a season, you know, and the writer goes on to talk about the contrasts and the different requirements and experiences and challenges that life may bring through the years. And, you know, the theme is you don't hang your hat too much on any of those experiences, successes or failures. You remember God is above it all, and that carries you through with humility and also with bravery. But another theme in there is that we have to give it away, that we're inevitably going to pass along whatever we're about, whatever our calling has been, to someone else. Several months ago, I went to a seminar for pastors. It was for transitional pastors, what they used to call interim pastors. And one thing stuck with me in that seminar, and that every one of us is an interim. Every one of us is a transitional, whatever we are, commissioner, pastor, whatever you may be. And the challenge, usually I'm pretty cynical about those seminars. I have to go to them, you know. I think I already know what they're going to tell me. But that one stuck because I have a tendency sometimes to think only about what I'm doing and what I will accomplish in my years at any church or anything else I'm doing. But his stress was, all of you are transitional. Even if you never carry the title of a transitional pastor, every one of you is preparing the way for somebody who will follow you. Either preparing it to be easy for them or preparing it to be hard for them. But that needs to be your state of mind, because you won't keep it forever. With election season coming on, that, you know, is something that may be on y'all's mind. It's going to be transition perhaps, and certainly statewide, nationwide, eventually that always happens. So something to contemplate as we think about our place as citizens and leaders in a community too, that we're always in transition, preparing for the next person, and we want to do it well. Lord, I thank you so much for these commissioners and their great leadership, their dedication to their task, but more than that, to the people you've given them to lead and to help. Bless them tonight as they deliberate and think with wisdom and discernment and patience. And I would pray for those who are here tonight too. Our role as citizens is to support them as leaders, to be vocal and clear and broad thinking about the needs of our whole county. So bless this meeting tonight, I ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
And Pastor, since you're here and mentioned it, it made me think of something that was Mr. David Weitzel yesterday that you presided over.
It was.
A mover and a shaker in our community for years and years and years. And we also don't want to forget that since not so long ago, Mr. J.F. Allen passed away, who served right here on this board faithfully in the state senate, as road commissioner. We could talk all day about those two, but both those folks are gone, and we're going to miss them.
And
thank you for jogging my memory.
Well, they provided for good transition.
Thank you. Yep. Next thing on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Manager.
If you are able, please rise and join us in reciting our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Have a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Got a motion from Commissioner Copeland. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Matheny. Thank you. Do we have any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The public forum is next. Now, we have a tax appeal coming up, and for all the people that's involved in that particular matter, you do not have to speak during the public forum. We will give you time to address us during that appeal. So you don't have to bring that matter up in the public forum. But if there's anybody here that would like to speak about any other matter in the public forum, now is the time. Do we have anybody? We got the veterans on our agenda, so you don't have to either. We're going to give you plenty of time as well. Anyone else? If not, then we'll forego the rules pertaining to the public forum and move on the agenda. Consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
So moved from Commissioner Matheny. Do we have a second? Second from Commissioner Wooten. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And now we have a presentation from one of my favorite groups, the Montgomery County Veterans Council. And I don't know who's going to speak, but we want you to come up now. Miss. Good to see you and good to have all of you here tonight.
Thank you. Greetings to all. And to share information regarding the Field of Honor. Thank you for allowing us to explain the Field of Honor tonight. The council members are honored to be able to coordinate with the county on the first annual Field of Honor. The Field of Honor is a public display of American flags in honor and in memory of veterans. The flags are meant to remember all veterans, living or dead, for their contributions in serving our country. Our display of 75 flags for the Field of Honor will be placed on the grounds of the courthouse. Each flag will have a yellow tag plus a yellow ribbon attached to it to verify the name of the veteran and who purchased it in their honor. The Field of Honor was brought to Matt's attention by the County Veteran Service Office in Moore County, and he became interested in setting the Field of Honor up this year. He asked Gracie Pack, our County Veteran Service Officer, and me to coordinate the project between his office and the Veterans Council. After checking with neighboring counties, the members of the council realized that we would not be able to establish a Field of Honor this year due to the time and the work involved. We are indebted to Matt as well as Chris Hildreth, Kevin McNeil from the Public Utilities Department, who did the majority of the work. The county has supplied the poles, the shackles to hold the flags, and put the rebars in the ground for the 75 flags being placed around the courthouse. Flags have been purchased by the county for each veteran who is serving on the Veterans Council, and one for each of the congressionally chartered organizations in the county. We have 3 American Legion posts and 2 VFW posts. The Veterans Council has purchased 60 flags to be sold for $25 each. We have 1 flag left to sell. Our deadline is the 19th, which is Friday. So a total of 75 flags will be on display around the courthouse. I'm sure that all of you have noticed the orange flags that have been placed at various points around the courthouse, marking the location where each flag will be. When you look at the location of each orange flag at first, it's difficult to imagine what the scene would be when all of the flags are in place. Just think for a moment, close your eyes and envision flags all around the Montgomery County Courthouse. It's going to be a beautiful sight. When I first saw the orange marker flags, I did not envision what it would look like. Then after I thought about it, it's going to be a wonderful sight. Most of the Field of Honor flags are placed close together where you cannot walk through them and see what's going on. So we have Matthew and the Public Utilities have placed each flag 8 feet apart so that our citizens and others can come in and walk through the flags and see who they are in honor of or in memory of, and see what's happened. On November the 1st, the West Montgomery ROTC will place the flags for us. and the East Montgomery High School ROTC will remove the flags on the 19th. It's going to be on display from November 1st through to 19th. And this is, we have Veterans Day coming up on the 10th of November. After the flags are removed, they'll be taken down to the Veteran Service Office for those who purchase the flags to pick them up. That's between 1 and 4. We have planned a ceremony for Saturday, November 3rd at 11 o'clock, somewhere on the grounds of the courthouse. To dedicate the Field of Honor, our guest speaker will be the Honorable Judge Robert Wilkins from Ashboro. It's an awesome sight to see the flags on display and to know why they are there. What a glorious and luxurious feeling to be able to walk through the avenue of flags flying in honor or of veterans or in memory of veterans as a remembrance of those who served their country during peacetime and in wartime. I'm sorry, I'm having a vision problem. To sum up, all gave some, and some gave all. Thank you.
Ms. Negus, let me introduce Ms. Gracia Pack to the people that may not know her. She's our Veteran Service Officer, something you know a little bit about.
Yes.
And if you would, introduce your veterans that you brought, please, the ones that are here tonight.
I'm trying to remember this flag.
This is the flags that we posted on this site. Let me introduce them. All right, first we have our president, Jim Adderholt, and his lovely wife, Berlene. She was recently made an honorary member of the council. We have John Negus, who's our treasurer. We have Tommy Blankenship from Mount Gilead. We have Larry Lemons, commander of BOCC 9881. Leanne Hogan from the 9881 auxiliary president.
Are there any other veterans in the audience? I know we have two up here.
And recognize Mr. Wooten and Mr. Matheny as being veterans. Did you see this flag? 75, it's going to be around the courthouse. It's going to be a luxurious sight to see. And when I see the Field of Honor, it's just awesome.
And then hopefully next year we'll have 150.
Hope so.
We only have one left, so.
We do thank you for working with us. We're honored to be able to coordinate this and look forward to working you on other projects if you need us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we appreciate all of your service. Thank you. Thank you, and the two gentlemen up here as well. Thank you. Next thing on our agenda is a tax appeal. Mr. Woodard.
Commissioners, thank you. We do have a appeal of 2018 taxes, appeal of tax status and tax valuation by statute goes before the Montgomery County Board of Equalization and Review. That board has adjourned for the year, and so any citizen property owner who wishes to appeal after adjournment of the Board of E&R may do so to the County Board of Commissioners. The same process that the Board of E&R goes through as far as hearing testimony, the Board of Commissioners is required to go through, and so we will follow that format. And then that decision by the board is binding, and if the property owners are not satisfied with that, then they do have the right to appeal to the state, to the PTC, Property Tax Commission. With that said, I will read into the record, we have a appeal of the tax exempt status for 2018 by Fellowship Ministries. They are appealing the status of parcel ID number 753811657002. Following the usual format, we will first hear from the tax office, and then we will hear from the property owners. If they wish to give testimony, they have provided a statement of the request, and it's included in your board packet. So with that said, I'll ask Vicki and John to come forward to represent the Montgomery County Tax Office. And then I will question them about the issue. Is the issue before us the timeliness of an application for tax exempt status on the aforementioned property owned by Fellowship Ministries for the tax year 2018?
Yes, it is.
Has the applicant been granted tax exempt status for 2019?
Yes, they have.
So the issue here is the timeliness of an application to get that exempt status in 18, but they have been granted the status moving forward. We are governed by a general statute. What is the general statute requirement for applying for tax exempt status in a timely manner?
In order to be granted the exempt status, you have to apply by the end of the listing period, which is January 1st to January 31st of each year.
Okay,
And
so that is the recognized listing period is January 1st through January 31st to get qualify the exemption for that year. If you purchase a property after January 31st, what is the requirement by statute to make a timely application for that year?
30 days after the recording of the deed or after transfer of property.
Okay. Do you have a copy of the recorded deed transfer for this parcel?
I do, and I
Okay,
have
would you please
copies.
provide that to the Board of Commissioners? Okay, what is the date of the recording in the Montgomery County Register of Deeds office for the transfer of this property?
April 4th, 2018.
April 4th, 2018. Based on that recorded filing date and the deadline you just mentioned of 30 days from the filing to apply for the tax exempt status for that year, what would have been the deadline for timeliness for this application?
May 4th, 2018.
May 4th, 2018. Was an application complete or otherwise received by the appellant by this date?
No.
Okay. What is the date of the first contact application received?
The first application was received on July 17, 2018, and that one was incomplete.
Okay,
Then-
and the complete application was received when?
August 15, 2018.
Okay. Whose responsibility is it for the filing of an exemption status timely?
The property owner.
Okay. Do we, the Montgomery County Tax Office, routinely as a service to nonprofit, mail forms to them when we are informed of possible qualification for exempt status?
Yes, this is a service, but it's not required that we do such this. There's a mechanism or staff in place to provide such notice to all the property owners. You know, any formal policy could be construed as grounds for delinquent property owners to claim they did not receive their notice. By statute, property owners are responsible for their taxes and filing status, even if the notice was not mailed or mailed incorrectly.
Okay. Is there a provision under the general statutes which would allow the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners to grant this request for tax exempt status? If so, what are those qualifications for an exemption?
Yes, the statute does allow for the Board of County Commissioners to grant an exemption if good cause has been shown by the appellant.
Okay. What is an example, in your professional opinion, of a good cause as warranted by statute for the granting of an exemption?
if the applicant was given misinformation by the tax office and/or was denied the right to apply for an exemption timely. Another example would be failure of the tax office to maintain office hours during filing period in case of inclement weather or disaster. These would be grounds for good cause, not attributable to the applicant.
Based on the information you have before you in the application and the information just noted, what is the recommendation of the tax office in regards to this request for exemption of 2018 taxes due to late filing?
The recommendation is not to grant the request. The applicant has not provided any evidence of good cause.
In your best estimate, how many exemptions were denied last year by the tax office due to failure to file timely?
We received dozens of applications throughout the year, some for senior citizens, some for other exemptions, some for veterans and disability exemptions, and land use applications. As a matter of law, we do not have the authority to grant exemptions that are not timely filed. And so all those other applications have been denied.
Does the tax office have any other information related to this appeal? Okay. Obviously, we are in favor of all nonprofits and tax exempt status, but we are required to follow the general statutes in order to be fair to all taxpayers. And so that is the recommendation of the tax office. Chairman, I'll ask if the commissioners have any questions for Vicki or John, or any information they need to receive, and if not, we will allow the property owner to speak before the board.
Any questions, Mr. Matheny?
So this property was in a tax exempt status under the previous owner.
Under the previous owner, it was, yes, sir.
So is there a full year of tax due, or is it prorated,
Yes, sir, it's a full year tax.
even though it was,
Yes,
as
sir.
of the 1st of January, it was in a
Yes, sir.
tax exempt? And how much is the property tax?
I don't have that amount. I believe it was nine.
$56.
Is that county only?
Yes. We do not collect for the.
Okay, you don't collect, that's right, we don't collect the town of Troy.
But this property is in the town of Troy limits.
It's right at the edge. I'm not sure if it's in city limits or not.
I'm not sure.
Other questions?
So do you know how much the taxes are?
It was 9 something. I don't have the exact amount.
900
something.
some odd dollars. That's all.
Was there an official closing of this property?
I can't answer that. I was not aware.
I'll ask the fellows. I'll get to you when we
You
get
did give them the information in a timely manner?
Yes.
That they will, okay.
Yeah, we mailed a letter to them in April.
All right.
And again, the question, how long does anyone have to apply after the deed's recorded?
It's 30 days, but it really should be done in the month of January, from January 1st to January 31st. But because this took place after January,
So the
they
purchase
have-
was.
the purchase or the transaction took place after January, so they have 30 days after that.
Did you say that all the other applicants had been denied that
Yes,
were
sir.
not timely filed?
Yes, sir.
Other questions? We may have more. We may have more. Any other questions right now? Okay, Mr. Woodard?
As I stated previously, the board does have the written request in their board packets, but I will ask if anybody representing Fellowship Ministries wishes to come forward and give testimony in this matter.
And if you will, please, first of all, give your name and address, so we'll have, this is on the record, and so we'll have you, who's appearing before us on the record, just name and
My
address.
name is Paulette Haywood, and my home address.
Yes, ma'am.
Is 434 Chip Road, Mount Gilead, North
Yes, ma'am.
Carolina.
And yours, sir.
And I'm Rick Davis, I'm the pastor of
Yes, sir.
Fellowship Ministry, Post Office Box 328, Star, North Carolina.
Thank you. All right.
Go ahead, say what you want to say, then I'll
Okay.
entertain it.
I'm not sure how to say this, but we're not actually asking for the way I understood it was that we disagreed with the amount of tax. That's what the appeal board, I mean, the one that's not in session anymore, but we're appealing that. We don't think we should be taxed for the full year of 2018 because we did not take it in, we did not possess it at that time, and it went from one nonprofit to another nonprofit. We became a nonprofit in November of 2015, and we did not own any property until this property was given to us. So we went through the lawyers of Garner and Williamson, and we have the deeds done, and it was just a general warranty deed, and it was registered. Like I said, that was correct on the 4th, but it was registered with the name wrong. So the tax office could not find us. So and then the post office could not find us. They couldn't deliver our mail. They said there was no such address, and it's clearly on the deed what our address was. Then the post office said, even asked us if we had a mailbox with a number on it, and we did. And so I had to talk to the postal office and had to call 911 addressing, and they had to confirm that our address was correct, and I had to go back to the post office and tell them that, yes, we are there, and we're the same address as what Montgomery veterans were. The address had not changed, the mailbox had not changed, nothing had changed. And so the tax office, when we first went to them, which was in June, not in July, it was in June when we finally received our information because of misdirected mail, that we were not aware that we had 30 days. We were not aware of the North Carolina statute, that we had 30 days, because we just did a general warranty deed through our lawyer, and it was never told to us that we had 30 days. So, I mean, we did not know. If we'd known, we surely would have done it, because as soon as the tax office informed us and we got our mail informing us, we took it to them.
Says we're nonprofit here in the deed.
Yeah, and it shows in the deed that we're a nonprofit corporation. And we surely would have taken care of it, because as soon as we were made aware of it, as soon as we received the letter and the mail and the information, we took care of it right away and went and filled out the form and turned it in. In fact, we didn't fill the form out completely, and they returned it to us by mail, and we got it that second time. And as soon as we got it, we took it back to them, and I turned it in both times by hand.
Now, let me make sure I'm hearing this right.
Okay.
And if you want to complete, if you can keep your train of thought, because I'll
Okay.
lose mine if I don't.
Yeah.
And the other commissioners may have a question. So what you're saying is that your mail was not delivered to you?
Right.
Was it sent back to us? It was sent back, in other words, you got it back, okay. And secondly, I had another question, but it'll come to me, I'm sorry. That was the main one, I'm sorry.
Well, when did you get the notice from the tax office?
The first one we got was in June. And the tax office even told me they had a hard time getting the notice to us because the letter kept coming back. In fact, it came back to them 3 times.
You know what, was it early in June or late in June?
It was early in June.
Okay.
And even our insurance, we have full coverage insurance on our property and on our building, and through Montgomery Insurance, and they called us and told us your policy came back undeliverable. So that was, I said, really? Because we had no idea what was going on with the post office. And I had to go to the insurance company to pick up our insurance policy. So it wasn't just the tax office that we were having issues with our mail. It was the mail, and I went and talked to the postal clerk about it, and I had made 3 trips to the post office about it, because they don't have a regular courier, they said, for that route. It's like 3 different couriers, and there's a mailbox there.
But you were utilizing the same address, correct?
Right.
Can I, say something right here?
Absolutely, come up to the mic, please.
Still, she said, they said there wasn't, the post office said there was no such address. So she says, you have to deal with 911. Well, 911 said they're not gonna change that, it's not their problem. So we don't have the authority to correct the address, that's not us.
They said
That's
that's
somebody
it.
else's authority in the county. So we're at alls, we can't do anything, we're pulled both directions, so what do?
And I have the tax bill here, I have a copy of our tax bill,
Sure understand.
if you wanna see it. Because it says on here, it's the full 5+ acres, including the ball field.
Yeah, does any of the commissioners want to see the tax bill? We know,
Okay,
we would have the business. Okay, anything else?
Nobody's heard the letter, but you guys got the letter, you know what's on the agenda. Let me say something about, and because can I get off base here a little bit and just talk about myself a little? This ministry has never taken any money from anybody. We've always tried to help people. And that was our vision when we went into this ministry, to help people that nobody else can help, drug addicts and a lot of people that churches wouldn't reach out to or just shun away. What you're doing here is you're taking out money that we worked hard for to help somebody for Christmas. You know, you're taking it out of their mouths now. And my question is, are you guys gonna give that back to the people in the county that have needs? I'm willing to work and help these needs. So the other things we hadn't brought up here. We really want to bring it up, but since it seems like it's going this direction, and we understand the law. We read the state law. We understand the law. We've been in contact with the state. We know what's going on. We understand the law. We're not saying we wasn't in violation of the law,
right.
state law. We know, we can read the law. We know we're past the 31 days.
Right.
What we're asking for is your grace to waive it. Now,
Right.
if you don't have the authority to waive it, that's all you gotta tell me, but there is some other issues going on besides this one issue that will might cause some issues in this county. I didn't want to drag out all this stuff and air it out before Montgomery County. The city of Troy leases that ball field from us at no cost. Our lease says that the tax is gonna be any tax incurred, that the town of Troy will pay it all. Now, they didn't probably not pay none because they're probably tax exempt. I don't know what they do, but I'm sure they're not paying any taxes. So it's just gonna either go two directions. Either Raleigh's gonna release it, and they didn't say they would, they didn't say they wouldn't, they said they'd probably take care of it. But if you guys can't waive it, it's easier to just do it on a local level and we don't have to go through all this. Do it on a local level, waive it with nonprofit. We're not trying to get out of something we're not entitled to. I understand the 31 days, Mr. Woodard. I understand we're wrong.
We understand that.
We understand that.
That we didn't know about it, and when we had our deed done, it was never mentioned by our lawyer.
I don't have to go to Troy and bill Troy for the tax for this property, because it's not gonna be pleasant.
We help, what he's trying to say is we help families.
It can be done, but I mean, I mean, business is business. It can be done. We got a lease on it.
Was, excuse me, sir, was the previous, the people
Montgomery
that
did-
turned over, will they getting their mail there?
Yes,
Yes, but they deal with Montgomery County veterans. Well,
they were getting their mail there, it was clearly no problems
Well,
under that address.
yeah, well, as long as it was addressed to that address, they had no reason to send it back.
Exactly.
Well, they said they just said they didn't know where Fellowship Ministries was, is what they said.
Well,
They never heard of it.
know, as long as it was addressed.
But they got a
I'm
different carrier,
postal-
they got
Yeah,
different couriers on
That was the
that.
postal
And
carriers,
that,
yeah.
what they did was not, Commissioner, that was not, they're supposed to deliver the mail where it's addressed to. If someone sends something to 5 Wellwood and the person, Anthony Copeland, don't live there, you write return to the sender, address the unknown. But if they had the correct address on it, they shouldn't have been sending their mail back. So that was not their fault, it's the carrier's fault, actually.
Well, I
And
mean-
he had a little meeting with his carriers about it too, because that's what he told me. He said, I'll be making sure, because the mailbox is there, it always has been there, and it had the numbers right on it, 443 Troy Cantor Road. We're right on the edge of the county line. And what we're saying is, we help families. Last year, we helped 5 different families, right about this amount of money through the
Let me
county
say,
during the
I don't even
holidays.
take, I don't even take, nobody in this ministry takes a salary. There's not anything in this ministry that's not going out to help people.
And with this bill of $922, it would greatly help some more families during the holidays in this community.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask, John, what did the notice say that was mailed in April?
You read it verbatim?
We'll just introduce it in the record and give him a copy, and he can pass it on.
I do have some sticky notes on it.
I'm gonna tell you, it's hard to stand behind here and not preach a message.
Okay.
Y'all praying for me,
Well,
aren't you?
for the benefit of the other commissioners, it says, "We are aware that you recently acquired property which does not receive a tax exemption. In order for you to receive the exemption in the future, the enclosed application must be completed and returned to our office before January 31st, 2019. So how were they notified, or how were you notified that you had to do it within 30 days?
We weren't. We did not know the 30 days until we went to the office with this bill and told them, we're nonprofit, we don't owe nothing. And then that's when the tax office told us, oh, yes, you do. It is North Carolina statute, whatever.
Well, John, on the deed was, what
And
what
the-
triggered you writing this letter?
The transfer of the deed,
Which was what, on April?
April 4th is when the deed was recorded.
But
Yes.
that's-
That's when it was
That's a
registered.
bad, and wait a minute, let's talk about that date a minute. That might be a bad date, because listen, they retroacted that deed being registered back to the 4th, but it really, the title was, the ministry was written up wrong, the title was wrong. They had to go back to the lawyer's office with it and bring it back.
The tax
So,
office.
so that delayed
yes.
it, that delayed it some more.
The tax office did tell us when I went in June, they said we had a hard time finding you. They couldn't find us listed in the 501
Right, they had the
C3s
name wrong.
because the name was wrong. And then that's when we realized I got the original deed and then I got the name change deed. Then it was still registered back to the date of April 4th, but the tax office couldn't find us because there was a name misspelled. It was ministries instead of ministry. That was the error. So we had it redone.
Well, John, I'm just wondering, why would you not, in the same letter, say if you want a tax exemption, you have to file within 30 days? Instead of saying you have to do it.
You said the letter was returned.
No.
It's not the county's responsibility to
No, I know.
notify people of possible exempt status. It's just, as John's going through and we're keeping track of all the sales going up to revow, if they notice somebody who may be eligible, they send the notice. But
As a courtesy.
yeah, I mean, it's not a function of the tax office to seek out exemptions. I mean,
I
it's.
understand, but I mean, just kind of curious that this was within 30 days of the filing of the deed when this notice went out.
Right, because the listing period is January through January 31.
And
It's a
we-
form
and-
letter.
And we didn't own the property in January. We did not acquire it until
I mean, the
registered.
statutes are kind of quirky. If the property would have been purchased July 1st, there'd have been no taxes owed on it.
Well, the title deed itself says we're tax exempt, nonprofits, that ought to throw a red flag up, and they should have just, could have had the courtesy to just tell us.
Well, some nonprofits are
He
not.
didn't have to mail us anything, he could have did the courtesy to just tell us across the board.
Well, some nonprofits are not tax
That's,
exempt.
that's right, but I know that.
It's called to order. We're not gonna.
We
that.
do have church there. There is a church there, and we are a church, and we are established as a
Montgomery,
church in that building.
Montgomery County Veterans meet there. The Trail Life Ministry Boy Scout Christian group meets there. So it's a building that, it's a multi-purpose building. I mean, it's just putting a little quench on us, but that's fine. That's what you guys decide.
I understand. Any other evidence you guys want to put on?
I'm good.
Any questions from the commissioners? Hold on, we may not be through. Any other questions for John in the tax office?
I just have one, John, on those people you said that had made, or had request, well, they didn't request because they obviously didn't come before us, so did they have the same option to come before us to appeal?
They did.
They just didn't choose to?
Actually, you did have one in Board of Equalization Review, if I remember correctly,
Okay.
We did.
the medical thing star.
And is this bill for a full year of $922? Because we didn't own it for, in
Well, we're not gonna pay it anyway.
the beginning of the
We're
year.
not gonna pay it.
Well, I
We're
just,
gonna make the city pay it if it goes that far.
I'm just asking a question.
My issue with this is not circumventing my issue as one commissioner is not circumventing the state statute at all. It has to do with the timing of the closing, and you had some responsibilities, and that can be debated about what should and shouldn't have been.
Right.
But Mr. Woodard, and to John, my concern comes in that the previous owner was nonprofit. The previous owner obviously had the status and was not paying taxes. Am I correct about that? That at least we ought to at least think about and consider that nonprofit status up till the closing be prorated. And because they would not have, I don't know if that's.
I don't think you have the authority to.
Don't have the authority to do that, okay. Well, I'm sorry, but if we don't have the authority, then we can't do that either.
You have the authority to grant the exemption for good cause.
Okay, we do.
You have the authority to change the value. but you
Understand
can't- you
that.
can't- yeah.
Well, I don't think we have the authority to change the value right now. I'm not sure about that, but.
Yeah, you
well, we
actually-
may have, but anyway, that's another topic. All right.
My thoughts are, since the postal, it seemed like a lot of the, I guess, the problem was with the postal people. I just feel like that, that probably if that part had went through, that it would have been taken care of. Like I say, I don't think they were trying to avoid doing what they should if they were notified. I mean,
Other questions or comments? Then it's the pleasure of the board.
well, I make the motion that we dismiss it.
When you say dismiss it?
Dismiss, waive their tax to where they don't have to pay it, that due to the fact of the postal service getting them behind. And they're, like I say, they're doing good for the community. It's not like a lot of the issues, but I just feel like that we should waive it, and I make that motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I concur with, Commissioner Crisco in that the notification wasn't given in a timely manner. We don't have the discretion to question their intentions, but I do know that if the address was properly put on the letter, it should have been delivered. They shouldn't have returned it, and that was just not in line with postal regulations. So I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to waive or to apply this as a non-exempt status this bill year. Are there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much luck to you. It sounds like we were the least of your problems. It looks like everybody else is your problem, except having to bring it to us because we didn't deliver the mail, we didn't.
Well, listen, we appreciate you
We-
taking up your time. We
Yes.
noted it all.
But this hearing wasn't going anywhere, as you said. It was going in the direction we needed for it to go. So,
Yes.
And the Bible says, well, much is given, much is required, and I he's using you in a special way, you just don't know it. I know you have a lot of things you have to deal with, and we certainly appreciate you taking time.
And we
Thank you.
appreciate it, Commissioners. Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
All right, County Manager's report.
If it pleases the board, I would like to ask Robbie to come up and give us an update on Hurricane Florence. The county has received declaration as a disaster area that will help us with some of our costs that we incur with public infrastructure. Unfortunately, we did not have enough damage to meet the threshold for private property assistance. And Robbie, if you'll just refresh the board to what that standard was, and Robbie has been out, and every phone call that he's received or email from a resident saying they have damage, Robbie's been on scene, he's been cataloging that damage, and we applied for status immediately after the storm. The other counties further east got the declarations immediately. The damage was apparent, but with here and having to meet that threshold, it was not so apparent. But thank you, Robbie, for all your work and meeting with folks. But the county has been declared a disaster area, but that's, again, limited to what it will pay for. Robbie, if you'll, again, tell the board about what the threshold was to get private assistance and what you've been able to do to try to help folks here.
Thank you, Mr. Manager and Commissioners. As you know, Hurricane Florence came through, created a whole lot of issues for the county. We had somewhere in the neighborhood of 13 inches of rain over a 3-day period, and the water levels rose historically for Montgomery County. We did have some issues, several issues. We had a water main break. Town of Troy had some issues with their wastewater treatment plant. Luckily for most of the citizens of the county, they didn't have any issues, but there were some limited residences that did have some issues with flooding and stuff. But unfortunately for them, FEMA requires that they have a threshold of 25 homes have to be affected with 40% damage or more. Unfortunately, we didn't meet that threshold, so we don't qualify for individual assistance for the citizens. However, we are pursuing other avenues of assistance for those folks, such as the Baptist Men, the Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity. So we are pursuing those avenues for those folks. Our threshold for public assistance, though, was $102,000, which we are most assuredly meeting with the repair of the water main break, cleanup efforts, and we're meeting with FEMA this Friday to get all that process started. So as County Manager said, everybody that called to tell me that they had some issues with their house, I've been out and I've talked to them and explained to them that unfortunately for them, they didn't meet that threshold, but we were actively pursuing those efforts to get them some assistance. But like I said, this Friday, we're having a meeting with FEMA and the state. And by being declared, we will be able to get 100% of our cost, 75% being from FEMA and 25% being from the state. So I did find that out. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
And just for clarification, it's that number of homes, 40% damage uninsured.
And so we probably had 25 homes that got a tree or something that did 40% damage, but the insurance picked it up. Typically, with a storm like this, no one, unless you're in a floodplain, has flood insurance. So if you have, 25 homes that flooded, then that triggers this mechanism for private individuals. But most of the damage was probably picked up by insurance. It was just flood, and it's unfortunate because we did have a handful of people that lost a lot. And it's always sad that they find out that they don't have insurance, and you're not in a floodplain, so you wouldn't, and it's heartbreaking when Robbie was sharing a story that people had to go cash out their 401k to get the mold and stuff out of their house, and it's always heartbreaking.
Any questions, commissioners? Robbie, thank you.
Thank you. Chris, if you want to step up, and Chris been meeting with the DOT. They don't like to put water lines on bridges, but Chris has got them to allow us to connect Pekin back up under the bridge. They really are willing to work with us in any way. Now that Robbie's got the disaster, we will try to cover the cost of that temporary connection on the bridge through federal, state money, and the repair through federal, state money. So, Chris, thank you for what you've done with them.
The way I understand it, there's sort of two pots of categories of money from FEMA. One is just repair, immediate repair, getting it back up and running, whatever it may be. And the second one or alternative is mitigation to prevent it happening again, So, for example, our line that was completely severed underneath the Little River south of Troy, the immediate fix is what we've been working with DOT and the structural engineers for DOT out of Raleigh, is to put a temporary line on the bridge or under the bridge or beside the bridge. Hadn't figured that out yet exactly how it's going to go, but either way, it'll be a temporary line to make that connection to help with water quality and fire flows and keeping those people with good service on the south central part of the county. More alternatives is a different route altogether. Instead of having to go from Mount Gilead through Troy, through Bisco, through Gander, and then back to them. Maybe there's a quicker route that's more sustainable, has a longer lifespan, because directional drilling underneath Little River south of Troy here is not a very good option because of the inclines to exit and entry and exit angles. And so you're talking about a massive bore, 1,000-foot bore, where if you wanted to bore the same river on 731 or 73, it's not near as long because it's all floodplain. And so that may be an option for mitigation money, is to have that alternate route. But anyway, we're fleshing all that out and really discussing our options. It was good to hear that we met the threshold, and hopefully we won't. Hopefully we'll be held harmless here and can get good infrastructure back in place.
Questions, commissioners?
I just think it'd be good if we can get an alternate route like you were talking about, and I really don't see how it hurt their bridge. Kind of crazy that they just gonna do a temporary one. If it's gonna temporarily hurt it, it looks like it would longevity hurt it, but.
Well, if we could run the other route down 731, we'll just leave it there and won't ever tell them.
Yeah. It's temporary for 24 months. 24 months is a long time.
Yeah, we don't have to sign anything saying how long temporary is.
But no, they've been very amenable and easy to work with and quick with their answers. So I have to say it's been nice.
Well, that would also, like I say, help us with the water quality, I guess, being able to send it around that way in case of something, I guess, ever happened on the main.
Yeah, anything on 109 from Mount Gilead to Troy,
And we're down completely, so it's a good idea to look at running that a different way anyway.
We've asked them, of course, that's where you meet the resistance. You say, instead of putting it back where it may happen again, let's move it down south, and that also solves all these water age problems. Now we have
you know, 2 avenues to move water across the county, and of course, they're not open to that. They say you gotta put it back just like it was, and I say, well, if Troy's Lagoon was outdated, are you gonna make them build something outdated, or, let's try to think outside the box here,
And hopefully that's where the mitigation,
yeah, we're trying
category.
with them, but, worked with the sheriff and folks at Carolina Forest to get the route open in the morning and the evenings for, the River Road, road collapse. That, repair, the culvert had to be ordered. It's not going to be ready, manufactured till October 19th, so the repair will not be complete till November 1st. The sheriff is providing a deputy for 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening to allow commuter traffic, be it from the south side going to the Triad or from Carolina Forest north going to Charlotte. And so that roadway is open through Carolina Forest to allow people to commute. Want to thank the sheriff for willing to put a deputy out there, and for Carolina Forest for working with us. So I think that was a good workaround.
Mr. Manager, if I may. I was out there this morning and spoke with a guy with DOT. He said the pipe should be delivered tomorrow.
Even better.
And the holdup now for them is the utilities. Carolina Water Systems has a water pipe under the, I guess, the east side of River Road, and telephone company has telephone lines down the west side. So they're kind of at a standstill right now because those companies hadn't come out and moved those lines and water lines. So if the pipe comes in tomorrow, he said they could probably turn the road back open next week, end of next week. But now he's waiting on those utility companies to remove those.
Well, Chris, if you'll reach out to Carolina Water and offer our assistance in any way possible, we will.
Already have.
Good deal.
Thanks. Thanks, Chris. Mr. Manager, anything else?
As always, staff's present if the board has any questions.
Board have any questions? If not, we want to thank all of you for your valuable service during the hurricanes and the weather. We know there's a lot more that contributed, but we want you to pass that down from us. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Anything else? If not, this meeting is adjourned.